All right, welcome everybody to the comic panel. I'm Cody.
I'm Taylon.
And I'm Jacob.
And today we are covering Seconds, written and drawn by Byran Lee O'Malley, known for his work on Scott Pilgrim. Also with drawing assistance from Jason Fisher, lettering by Dustin Harbin, and color by Nathan Fairbairn.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Jake, you chose this book for us.
I did.
You want to tell us a little bit about why you picked it and what it's about?
Well, I picked it at the time because picked it a couple weeks ago, and it was just on the announcement. Was it the announcement of the Scott Pilgrim anime, or was it that they'd gotten all the voice actors back? It was one of those. It was like vaguely topical.
Yeah, I think it was the voice actors announcement, because I'm pretty sure this anime has been in the works for a while.
So it was something that was like vaguely bouncing around my head as like we should do more Byran Lee O'Malley stuff, but if we could probably do Scott Pilgrim when the anime comes out. And it's also long. This is a little shorter, probably about the size of like one volume of Scott Pilgrim. So I figure, we've read Snot Girl, which is also Byran Lee O'Malley.
I
think he did like right after Scott Pilgrim was finished. Maybe not right after, but I think this was the next thing.
Yes. We are going backwards through his what do you call that? Bibliography. There we go.
So yeah, I was just interested in seeing, because I liked Scott Pilgrim when I read it, which was a little while ago. I wasn't as high on Not Girl. I thought it was okay. So I just wanted to see where this landed, and I'm vaguely more popular on it.
Yeah.
Or more positive, I should say. I think it's good. It's about a chef named Katie who's trying to open a new restaurant, but, she's having typical 20, 30-something troubles. Ex-boyfriends back in her life. She's having a weird physical affair with the chef that's taking over her place in the last restaurant she worked in. So she's kind of aimless in life. And then she gets a weird mushroom thing that can not send her back in time, I don't think.
No.
It just rewrites it.
Yeah.
You just you identify what you want to change. And then you go to sleep. You eat the mushroom first, then you sleep, and then it changes it. Which I guess is kind of where the title comes from. Seconds, you get like a second chance, but it's also the name of the restaurant she wants to open.
Yes.
That makes sense. I did not put those two and two together.
Yeah. Which also, the joke of the restaurant name is that you go up for seconds. Well, I mean, I guess it's kind of more of a fancy restaurant. You probably don't get seconds in a restaurant.
No, unless you're at a buffet. It's weird to ask for seconds.
Yeah. So I guess that is kind of a weird restaurant name, honestly. Like, you just want seconds, I guess? But you can't have them?
Oh, no. That is their shtick, is they give you seconds.
They didn't say that.
It could be. I don't think we see the restaurant in operation, so that could be their gimmick.
I guess so.
We just know that she's a really good cook.
True. Yeah. And there's magic mushrooms in the floor of the walk-in, but not those kinds of magic mushrooms. Actual magic mushrooms.
Yeah, so I guess the story is just about how she learns to use the mushrooms more. She tries to find an idealized version of her life where everything goes right. And she kind of does at the very end, I guess.
It's still not right.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but it's it's closer to perfect than it was when she started, I guess.
Yeah, but it's not as much from using the mushrooms, right? I gotta kind of skip it to the end here.
Well, I would say it's like there are certain details that are what she wants, but a lot of everything else isn't. Like even when she, in that perfect example, she got, so throughout this story we see her basically like focused on starting a new restaurant. And so she's trying to get all that started, and it's just being more and more of a headache. But by the end, when she finally rewrites it, it's like, oh sweet, we got the second restaurant, it's up and running, but it looks nothing like what she wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so like, even that wasn't perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because ultimately, by the end of the story, she has to like kind of give up control a little bit and basically reset everything back to the way it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we haven't talked about the character Hazel, but she has burns on her arms, and she has to talk to her ex, and like figure out where they want to go with that relationship and stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, so there's also the other, I don't know, part of this is that the reason that there's these magic mushrooms, I guess, is because it's part of the way that the house spirit, which her restaurant is also a house. It has an apartment on top. It was a house originally. It was converted. And so the house spirit basically is a thing, and it uses these mushrooms to kind of, change reality, basically. Humans can also use them, and Katie uses them to excess.
Yeah.
And also at the same time accidentally invites a different house spirit into Seconds.
Yeah. She was only allowed to have one mushroom.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the legal limit.
Yeah.
But she was like, oh, there's so much other stuff that I want to fix.
Mm-hmm.
And so.
Yeah, well, I mean, she had the first one, and then it was like, oh, this wasn't quite right. I forgot about this thing, like, I should have done that.
Oh, that was the house, or not the house, but the new restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, she's like trying to get the new restaurant up and running. They have to renovate an old or maybe not. Maybe it wasn't originally a restaurant, but it was a building.
Mm-hmm.
They have to renovate an old building that was called Lucky's. So it was some kind of catering service, maybe a bar, something like that. But they had to renovate it, and it just kept getting problem after problem. Mm-hmm. And so what happened was that she got an email from her contractor saying, hey, we need $12,000 to get this.
Yeah, or else we walk.
Yeah. Which she's like, well, I certainly don't have 12,000.
Which, can contractors just do that?
I guess, I mean, it sounds like, even the way that they talk about it, this is like, it turns out kind of a fishy company, Yeah,
to me, it came across, and I feel like I've seen this before where in other, like, media, but I think how it works is like they basically give you a quote beforehand, and then as they continue to work on it, as they continue to have problems, they're like, oh, actually, this is if they have more and more problems, they're like, actually, this is going to cost you even more.
Yeah.
Then,
I guess, maybe it's not as much that they were like a fishy construction company and more that it was like, like we understand that this is a massive amount of money, but like also if you can't pay us, you can't pay us. Like,
right.
It's like, it's just going to be too much work to do.
Well, I mean, this is like, you are hiring us.
Yeah.
This is our price tag.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't pay it, well, then we're not going to work.
Yeah.
So, well.
Anyway, though,
I'm not a homeowner or a restaurateur, so I don't know how that works.
Yeah. Good to, just say like, not our specialty here. Anyway, though, I feel like that pretty much gives a good summary, though, we didn't mention, other than when I mentioned her earlier, Hazel is one of the workers at Seconds, a waitress, and she basically, Katie gets to know her because she knows things about house spirits. She initially just thinks that they're just, fantasy. They're not real.
Hazel?
Hazel, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But she also still does like traditions associated with them, because. And, but then she's confronted with the reality too and helps Katie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say it's very much like she... How would you say it? It's like she does believe it, but not like when confronted with the reality of it, she's like, "Oh, actually, I didn't really believe it."
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess she was putting on a front. You could argue.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound quite right.
Yeah. Anyway, though.
Oh, it's like Indiana Jones says it. It's not what you believe, but how strongly you believe it. If you've seen the Indiana Jones 5 trailer.
Yes, I've seen it, but no, that's also not right. No.
I think it fits perfectly.
Hazel doesn't, Hazel does not fully believe in the house spirits initially. I think that she believes in doing the traditions for them, like seeing the benefit in doing that, and also like, like even the ones like leaving bread in the rafters and leaving clothes out, it's like, okay, well, how does that actually like help? Like, sweeping up the hearth, sure, that makes sense, but all the other stuff is maybe a little bit weird, but at the same time, it's like, okay, well, something or someone is eating the bread, and then same with the clothes, so it's kind of like, something's going on at least, but I got the impression that she didn't actually believe in the supernatural element of it until she did. Anyway, though, are we ready to talk about what we liked?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I definitely liked the characterization, especially of Katie. She seemed like a real person. Because, like, when confronted with the power to change reality, like, you get 2 uses in, and then it's like, how do I get a good relationship with my ex? How do I not embarrass myself in front of her, in front of him?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's like all of the stuff, like, I mean, I think that Byran Lee O'Malley really just, shines at making like very, like, I don't know, reflective characters, just like, oh yeah, I've done that, or wished I could have done that, or something like that. I felt that way.
Like, yeah, like the first time it's okay, I gotta make it so that I don't, like, Hazel doesn't burn herself in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is, I'm trying to find it. Why is it so much longer in between the first and second one?
It is choosing to have a salad before talking to her ex, and then saying something about how she's busy, and
oh yeah, she wants to be too cool.
Yeah.
For... So I guess it's the second time, so it's a little faster than I thought. But still,
Yeah.
Gotcha. I think I like the story in general, but I'd say, like, I define that as kind of like there are actions and consequences, and navigating those things like that. That's really interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is like, yeah, I really like, in some ways, like, just being able to, like, as the audience being like, just knowing that Katie is making a mistake, just like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like this story is very similar to a bunch of time travel movies, and so like,
yes, yeah, it does have that kind of very, like, similar structure, but at the same time, I think it is the strong characterization that makes it not too just generic.
That's
it's
fair.
Like,
yeah.
Speaking of the characterization too, I think also just all of the side characters, that's another thing that Byran Lee O'Malley does really great, and it's like very much, well, actually, yeah, I think this is in it's definitely in Scott Pilgrim, and he does it in Snot Girl as well, just giving like the character fact sheets, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, it's not a whole sheet, it's just a caption box, but like what their kind of deal is, like how old they are, and just like observations, usually from the perspective of the main character. And so, yeah, we have Hazel, we've got Andrew, her business partner for the new restaurant.
No, Andrew's the chef.
Andrew's the chef.
Oh, okay.
Arthur is the new business partner.
Arthur, okay, yeah.
But of Katie, not Hazel.
What?
Arthur is the new business partner with Katie.
Yes.
Not Hazel.
That's, yeah, I was just saying different side characters.
Yeah,
but yes, I see how that could have been confusing. Yeah. And, there's, I don't really know all of the people's names, hence me mixing up one just now, but
there's that, like, there's that server, the blonde one you see a couple times.
Yeah.
Yuna?
Mm-hmm.
Or Yana?
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And of course, as we said, the chef Andrew. There's the more portly one.
I don't actually know his name.
I
don't know if I feel like they would have said it, but I didn't.
They definitely say it, yeah. But yeah, he has a crush on Hazel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he takes over for
Andrew
at the end, yeah, because Andrew decides to go back to school, I think.
Patrick is his name.
Patrick.
I did not write that down.
Mm-hmm.
Huh, shame on me.
Yeah, but they're all distinct, very distinct characters. They've, they all, due to Byran Lee O'Malley's style, they do have a lot of like kind of similar looks in some ways. Not everybody, but just his style is very samey in some ways. Like it's, I don't know. We'll get to that when we talk about the art, but yeah, the designs of them though, and their distinct personality is like, it's never like the servers aren't just like, okay, well that's server 1, that's server 2, and that's server 3.
Yeah.
They're all people, and also it helps too that like Katie sees them very shallowly at first. He just sees them as like kind of basically like babies, just like you're younger than me, and you're not the people that I started this business with.
Yeah.
But then as she spends more time with them, she gets to know them more and see them more as like, complete people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that was interesting of like, they introduce Katie in the restaurant seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, yeah, this is Katie. And she was a chef one time. And she started a business with all these friends. 4 years later, and she's the only one that's still there. Which actually makes me ask the question, or maybe kind of answers my question. Because kind of near the end, because like I read this book in 2 parts, and so it's amazing how many connections you lose when you read, when there's a gap.
Yeah.
But I feel like I either missed it or forgot, like, what is Katie's deal? Why does she want to start another business?
I think that it's kind of running away from seconds. I mean, that's not what she says in her own words, but it is very much like, this didn't work out. Well, it did work out, on the surface, but it doesn't feel right anymore. So yeah, she wants to basically try again, within the theme, trying again.
Yeah.
But yeah, part of it is also she probably plateaued at seconds, and like she does seem like she wants to push herself and have something she can really call her own.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, right, because she said something about like she signed a deal with Ray, who was the previous co-owner, and it's like, oh, now it's not my business; it's Ray's business.
Yes.
Something about that.
Yes. Yeah, Ray does own Seconds.
Which is funny because later in the book, she goes to Ray and is like, are you the boss? And he's like, am I the boss? Well, I guess. Like he goes into more like, well, I guess if you look at it this way.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I think that is like, very telling because, like the whole point is that Katie was trying to distance herself, but she can't stop, She's very much, her fatal flaw is kind of being overly controlling.
Oh, gotcha.
Or at least wanting control, if not being able to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So later in the book, she goes to Ray again, and I like this line where she's like, so basically she sees the house spirit, and it just looks like another girl.
Yeah.
In like white hair, black jacket or something like that. And basically she goes to Ray and she's like, so have you seen like this possibly homeless girl, white hair? And Ray's like, no, I haven't. But then he says, but let me ease your concern. I have not seen this woman, but I will look out for her. And if I see
an eye out for any
Yes.
white-haired homeless girls.
and she's like, oh, that's awesome. And then she closes the door, walks back in. He's like, oh, that was sarcasm, right? Okay.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Yeah. I also love the expressiveness of like, you know, all of the characters, as far as like, yeah, their faces, you know, it's like always kind of has like, you know, a very distinct emotion, like panel to panel even it changes, you know. Lots of like, you know, more abstract, you know, like in one I'm looking at, red eyes, you know, large red eyes, which I mean, of course, that does start to get into the art a little bit, but it's also hard to separate with a writer artist. It feels pertinent to the story, and character. But yeah, I've kind of mentioned it a little bit. I also really liked the kind of layering of like motifs and themes, like the name seconds and the second chances, and you know, the idea of using mushrooms, which is a food for a restaurant, as the kind of magic item. Yeah, it all just like it works really well together, I feel like, and it doesn't feel like heavy-handed ever. It's like, oh yeah, I see what you did there. But it's never like too much, I guess.
You know, so
But,
later in the book, she tries to eat the mushroom, but she's like outside of the building.
yes.
And so she's like, events must occur in these premises. So the way that it was revealed made it seem like she was like, events must occur on these premises. And it's like, oh, you mean it has to occur in the building? Like, and I feel like I missed that because I was like, to me, what it said was on these premises, like under these conditions, premises being conditions. But then it said, but they meant it as premise, like premises.
Yes.
I was like, oh, okay.
Gotcha.
I'm reading this back now and I'm like, oh.
Yes. Yeah. No, I mean, I see where you went wrong, but also it would be kind of weird to have on your list of rules that you must follow these rules at the end. Like, yeah, they're rules, that's why.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get where you're coming from. I really like the relationship that develops between Katie and Hazel. And in particular, I just like Hazel as a character.
Yeah.
She definitely has a little bit of that, like, 2000s, like, twee kind of...
I don't know what that means.
I'm not, yeah, you're gonna have to explain.
Twee. It's...
Don't just say it again.
No, I'm working on it. Hold on. I just...
Jake, don't you understand? It's twee.
Yeah, I have to...
Yeah, come on, it's twee.
Guys, I just brought up a definition because I feel like that'd be easier than examples. Excessively or affectedly quaint, pretty, or sentimental.
Okay, so quiet, pretty girl. Is that what I'm getting?
And
Or quiet, pretty girl, awkward, or quirky?
Yeah, it's a type of quirky, I would say, in
Okay.
some ways, but yeah, it's very like, yeah, it is. What's the other, like a little bit like manic pixie dream girl
I see.
energy.
I see.
Um,
I knew what that meant at one point, and
Yeah.
I don't now. So
mhm.
I
Okay,
will.
that's the feeling I got because like everybody seemed to dislike her because she was shy but also really pretty.
Yes.
How
Mhm.
dare she?
Yeah, how dare she?
I get you.
So yeah, that is and so maybe I'm kind of falling into that trap by saying that, like, you know, it's a little bit like overdone at this point, you know, but despite that, I still really liked her character.
It's like, man, it's overdone. I don't like her. Hey, you're right.
Yeah. But no, I do like her. She's sweet, and you know, it's nice, like kind of the I wish that, you know, in some way Katie was like a better friend throughout, you know. She's very, very self-focused. I guess that's probably maybe her worst trait, actually, than
Yeah.
being in need of control,
Yeah.
is her kind of selfishness and self-focusedness. But yeah, it works out in the end. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was only me, but I almost thought that at times, like, I was like, and I remember, so I guess I should say first that I've read this book before. I read it when I first finished Scott Pilgrim, I think, so that was years ago.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Must have been at least 10 years ago.
No.
This came out 10 years ago.
No. Yeah.
Well,
okay.
I guess
I
9 years.
see. It must have been at least 10
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Or at most, I guess it would
Yeah,
have been 10 years.
uh-huh.
That's what I meant.
yeah, that makes more sense too. I was like, anyway, yeah, I read it a few years ago. And I remember having this thought then as well as now. I almost thought that maybe they were going to put Katie and Hazel in a relationship together by the end. I was just like, yeah, because there's like, you know, the whole like, basically, you know, the more or less like meet cute of like, but misunderstanding.
I saved you from horrible burns.
Well,
And
no,
then, like,
because it's
look up
specific.
your address in the HR paperwork. Go find your house to find out you didn't have burns.
Yeah.
Look at this meet cute.
Well, yeah, it's because it's like the idea is that like the misunderstanding of, hey, I'm like so confused, like, you know, there's no way that this thing that I like half remember when I woke up the other night, like that couldn't have been real. And so like rushing to her house and then like being like, oh, you came to see if I was okay, but there's nothing wrong? That's sweet, I guess. Like, if not a little bit weird, but
I see.
and then yeah, but you know, so it's kind of this like comedy in a way, but then, you know, they grow closer and closer. But then it turns out no, they just they put Hazel with what's his name? Patrick. And
Hey, man, good for him. Good for him. He finally
He
asked
was
her
always
out.
going to ask her out,
Yep.
and then he did.
yeah,
Mhm. Yep.
it's true. And I think Katie gets back with what's his name?
Oh my gosh,
Her
I
ex?
said.
The X.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really
Max.
didn't think that was where it was going to
Max.
end up, because like the impression I got, and this is like another thing I like, is that like when she arrives in the place where she is with her ex still, it's like something where it's like, oh, I'm not, like, on paper I should like this, but I'm not the person
Yeah.
who's gone through all the things to be here.
Mhm.
Right.
I don't like who I had to become to be here.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have thought too, like, that it'd have been like, oh, you know, this what a relationship with this person is like. It's not really what it's like. It's not what I thought it was,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit distinct than I don't like who I am because of, or to get here.
Yeah.
But same kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
oh,
Yeah.
it's- my dream actually is not
Mhm.
all that I thought it was.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway,
But then,
I guess
like, they kind of reconnect at the end, which I don't like super like, but I guess it's different than them just being like automatically back together.
Right.
right. Yeah.
See, I kind of like it because it to me just says like you didn't go through the work with him to get to where you are, and so that's why you keep running into problems with saying my restaurant and him being super upset about it.
Right.
And so, because that's in the book, and then it's like, okay, so we can work through this together. Like,
I don't know. I have a different interpretation than that because, like, I agree that is, like, one of the problems, but also it is, like, I think that Katie in that timeline, for lack of a better way to say it, you know, she sees how many sacrifices she had to make, like, to what she wanted or she felt like she wanted. And, like, sure, that happens in any relationship, especially, like, in that one, they are married at that point. But, like, I think, you know, ultimately, you know, you should still be, like, happy about the life that you have. And I don't think that she really seemed like, you know, she was, like, willing to accept it because she was there. But it was like, man, this really isn't what I wanted, you know? So I think that that's why it's still a little bit unsatisfying for me, where it's like, I mean, I guess they could still do things differently, but I don't know. It's weird because, yeah, it did really seem like, you know, the way to go, based on all of the other interactions, it's like, you know, she tried being, like, too cool and just, like, leaving him, you know, basically. And then she tried, like, being married to him. And it's like, yeah, you just got to, like, you know, say, like, hey, you know, I'm glad to see you. I'm sorry things ended up the way that they were. You know, but it's just not going to work out between us. I don't know. It feels weird because, like, I guess because of the way the writing is, like, everything feels so honest. It does seem a little bit weird. Like, I'm like, normally, like, when there's something, I know that this is really digging deep into something that I didn't like, you know, in the wrong segment, but normally when I kind of do a mental rewrite in my head, you know, things feel a little bit more natural, but that one doesn't feel natural to me. But at the same time, it's like neither does the ending. So I'm like, I don't know what I want.
Gotcha.
But
yeah, I was also thinking about this too, of like, I can't exactly remember, like, basically she makes a realization of just she wasn't honest with Max about the restaurant or her desire to start a new one. Right, but then that was that happened earlier, not towards the end. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Because I thought it was, because in my mind, just how it worked out was like she wasn't honest, and then she went back to him and was honest and willing to work about.
Yeah,
but
I mean that is a good point. That is why they initially broke up, was because, you know, she basically kept this from him,
and she couldn't, like, it was like she couldn't explain it. Like, she kept it from him, and then he was like, "Hey, let's move in," but she was like, "But I'm saving up money for this. I can't just move in." kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's not like even that their relationship didn't work. It's just like in the sense of they were incompatible.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll talk more about it later. But
yeah, so like for me, like I just enjoy the story. I think the characterization, I agree, has a lot to do with it, and just the premise of like, hey, we're gonna have second chances, and we're gonna make a choice, try fix it. Oh, it didn't actually work. Let's try it again. Like I really enjoy that. And so.
Yeah, and I liked the mechanics of it too, you know, like even though it might have been like similar to like time travel stuff. I like a time travel story.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about Minutemen, Project Almanac, and then When I Met You.
Actually, I don't know any of those. Wait,
you don't know Minutemen?
Were these all Disney originals that had time travel as part of the plot?
No, Minutemen is a Disney original that had time travel.
Once Jake said Disney original, then I remembered. But
Project Almanac it does deal with time travel in a very similar way, except it's not like a black hole starts sucking up, but just like everything going haywire, like things did not work the way that they thought.
Okay.
And then
what is it from though? Is it a show?
No, it's a movie.
It's a movie. Okay.
I don't know exactly who makes it, but
yeah. Okay.
But and then When I First Met You, I think is the name of it. It's that story much more similar to this, and like this guy who tried to get with this girl didn't work, and fast forward like 5 years later, she's getting married to this other dude, and he's like totally bummed out about it. And then he discovers that there's a photo booth that's a time machine. And so he's like,
what's in a photo booth?
Because photos capture memories.
Yeah, so I'm sure something like that. Yeah. But basically he tries to get with her, and he realizes like, oh, I don't like who I became to get here. It was never going to work out.
Yeah.
And so that kind of thing. Yeah. All those movies I love. So,
gotcha. I mean, honestly, a pretty eclectic smattering of time travel stories, I guess.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'll say none of them that I've seen except for Minutemen, which I have not seen since essentially it came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, gosh, I feel like that really threw me off track though. Right. I was saying that I like time travel stories, and I like the mechanics of this, you know, the revisions. And yeah, I like I don't know, just like the way that the story, you know, flows. I feel like, you know, it's both like, you know, you get a long expanded amount of time, and like it's a very short amount of time at the same time.
Yeah. Do we want to explain the house spirit, like the negative house spirit, a little bit more?
Oh yeah, I guess that would make sense. Yeah, so there's basically Katie takes a cauldron from the other place that she's trying to start her new restaurant at. It's they found it like bricked behind a wall. And basically she dumps out the cauldron on top of the mushrooms in seconds.
Yeah.
Because like basically she thinks like fertilizer.
Yeah.
And but that basically had the house spirit from the other place and brought it to the new, or the old place, to seconds. And then, but you can only ever have one house spirit in a house, and one kills the other.
Yeah.
Or will.
Because the idea being they each have different things that make them happy.
Right.
So you can't appease them both.
Mm-hmm.
Which to me made me think that, well, why can't you just have two spirits that want the same thing? There you go.
Well, no, because they're all supposed to be unique. That's the whole point.
Is it? Oh, okay.
I think. I don't know. Yeah. It is hard for me to imagine that they could all be so unique that you couldn't at least appease both of them, but also that's not the point of the story.
No.
You're just supposed to accept it.
Yes. But so basically, like, each time Katie used the mushroom trying to rewrite history, the other house spirit grows stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And so eventually it grows strong enough that the spirit itself starts taking control of reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so later in the book, one of her revisions, you see skeletons working as chefs.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
And it gets even weirder in, like, she's moving throughout the building, but then things get warped.
Uh-huh.
Like hallways start getting longer and steps just disappear or something like that.
Yeah.
And so eventually when she confronts the negative house spirit, the spirit's like basically crushed emotionally. Because to that spirit, each revision isn't like rewriting one timeline, it's creating another world.
Mm-hmm.
Very much like Avengers Endgame, but
Sure.
Avengers Endgame logic. And so to that spirit, it's like you kept leaving. All the Katies leave.
Mm-hmm.
Because she kept rewriting things, and it was creating another world, not rewriting one.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
I can make a computer science reference, but I can't think of it.
Well, it probably
you're
would
gonna
not.
lose us if you do.
Yeah. I'm like, I think you'd lose 90% of the audience.
It's like a
No, please don't.
space allocation.
Yeah, that sounds really complicated and confusing.
All it means is that when you're sorting something, it creates a copy. That's it.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The way that they explain it in the book is that there's a big tree and there's branches
I like the
off.
big tree. It looks cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I forgot about that.
There's branches off
It's
of the
Yggdrasil.
tree. Yeah. Yggdrasil. Yeah, the tree of life.
Mm.
Right. And there's a different instance of the house spirit. Does she have a name?
Liz is one of them. This
Liz.
is the white hair one.
Yeah,
I don't know if
yeah.
the
Yeah.
evil one does.
No, I don't think the evil one does.
Evil one.
Yeah.
Well, would you say that it could be evil Katie? Because, like, when the spirit is appeased or, like, emotionally healed, it turns into Katie.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It definitely was a dark reflection of Katie and her use of the mushrooms, I think.
It is referred to as a she.
Yes. I think that it's like, so on a like just like surface story level, it's supposed to be that, like, basically the house spirit, having moved to a different location, right? It, like they all probably like take on a more like corporeal form, and so like it modeled itself after Katie and like kind of her selfishness probably.
Mm-hmm.
because that's like the attributes that she was giving off the most of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's probably what they were going for without like specifically saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, though, what was I gonna say about? I was asking the name of Liz, for a reason.
Or you were asking if the evil spirit had a name?
No, I wasn't asking if the evil spirit had a name. I was asking about the original house spirit.
Oh, okay.
But now I don't remember why.
Oh, bummer.
But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, house spirit concept was cool though. I enjoyed it. Yeah. Is there anything else you guys liked while I'm trying to honestly remember what I was gonna say?
The characters talked about
That's pretty much everything.
big tree. Big tree was cool.
Oh, right. That's actually, I was still explaining the big tree. There's a different Liz house spirit at the crux of each branch.
Gotcha.
Yes. And a different instance of seconds as well. You know, yeah. Okay.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, so it was just cool. I liked the way that they illustrated it, I guess. And I don't mean like the art, like
I was trying to get to a joke there.
Yeah.
That's some mighty fine artwork. I was intentionally not finishing that statement.
Okay.
It didn't really.
It didn't
come
land
off right.
Yeah. All right. Anyway,
it's for legal reasons. That was a joke.
Good.
Why aren't you laughing?
Because it wasn't funny. Anyway, was there anything else that you liked, or should we move on to you didn't like?
I think we move on.
Okay. Yeah, moving on. Easiest thing for me to think of that I didn't like was what we were mentioning earlier, which was the ending relationship to repairing Katie and Max. I was just like, this feels forced.
It definitely felt like it seems like a lot of the story was about not going back to your past and repeating your same mistakes. And now we're doing that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would almost want to say like, oh, she learned, which I think in a way perhaps, but I think in a lot of other ways there are still some things that she didn't change.
Mm-hmm.
Especially she was like, or Max was like, I'm so tired. And she was like, well, I'm way more tired than you.
That was cute, I guess.
But to me, it said something about her character. That's how
it's supposed to be like a cute back and forth.
Yeah.
Man,
that's what it's supposed to be. If it doesn't land, then it doesn't land.
But I think the biggest thing that changed with her is that she was able to look forward while accepting the present.
Mm-hmm.
Because she still was trying to get her second restaurant up and running, but she also updated seconds, like repainted seconds, and was like really involved with it and like not dreading being there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but again, that's the story and not the on topic ish.
Right. No, I get what you're saying though. Yeah, it's like, I don't know, because what she literally says, she says to Ray at the end, this is what I've learned. there are things we can't change, and we just have to accept that. And maybe that's some kind of grace.
Yep.
And yeah, that's also a very funny scene where he's like, there's literally this poster.
It's the Serenity Prayer.
Yeah.
It's like incredibly famous.
Yeah. Serenity now! Which is Seinfeld, but
Okay. Not a reference that I got. Anyway, though, yeah. It was very funny, but like if that's all she learned, that's kind of not a lot. I feel like there's more for her to learn.
I feel like you should have learned more, but I guess
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, yeah, I don't know. It makes sense to me even from like a story construction point of view. Because you see her start out and I guess through the course of the story she's like trying to make things perfect.
Right.
And so she's basically saying like, "Oh, I can't make things perfect." And
yeah, but it's like I guess the issue I have is that we don't get to see that she's gotten any less kind of judgmental, because like she judges people like just right off the cuff, which I mean like everybody does that to a degree, but like, you know, you kind of have to rein it back at least a little bit, like be like, okay, well maybe that's not, you know, what's really going on or whatever. And yeah, we don't see if she's like, I mean, we could maybe imagine that she's like, you know, like focuses on other people, but like
I see what you mean now.
Like I mean we don't get a sense like, oh well, she became like really good friends with Hazel. Like our update with Hazel is that she cut her hair, she made friends with the other waitresses, and she is going on a date with Patrick. You know, it's like, so like you're basically Katie's life didn't escape the restaurant tour and Max, which is where it began, you know. I'm like, where are your other new friends and new experiences, I guess, you know? So yeah. All of that to say, the ending is a little bit not what I was expecting.
It's definitely not as strong, I think, as the rest of the book.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
I mean, like, I agree completely. It's like, it's probably the weakest part of the book. Really the only part I have a significant problem with. The rest of it I actually really like.
Yeah.
Oh, is the ending?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I didn't notice it as I was reading it, but I still can't say I don't like it, but like I agree that it could have been a lot stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I think the thing that's coming to mind that I didn't, well, it's on the fence, but basically, so Byran Lee O'Malley has, and I was telling this to Talon earlier off mic, but his characters tend to be like just really bad people sometimes. But like they think that they're good people.
Okay, I guess, yeah. I'm thinking about it. I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes that's a little bit like, oh my god, how can you be this bad? Like,
yeah.
Like I don't know. I know that not everybody can be like, you know, it would be boring if all stories just had like good people, obviously.
Yeah, if it was all good people who always made the best choices.
Yeah.
They'd be really boring stories.
Indeed. But
so do you think that, thinking back to those stories, do you think that they went from bad people to like good people? Like, oh.
Well,
or were they more like this, whereas like something very minor?
So Scott Pilgrim, he definitely, I think he becomes a better person by the end of the series. Yeah, he grows up a little bit, basically. Yeah, Snot Girl is kind of hard to say because
I would say no.
yeah, we didn't really get an ending to that story.
Mm-mm.
So it's kind of like, well, didn't get the opportunity to know if she becomes any better or not.
Because in my mind, I would imagine maybe you guys would be saying that differently if Byran Lee O'Malley wrote the characters to be like, oh, like they actually went through a arc where
right.
they're better people at the end.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely kind of the preferred,
Yeah.
so maybe this ties into problems with the ending,
Mhm.
but, yeah, I mean, it is just all I mean really is that it's hard to see characters make such obvious mistakes sometimes in their lives.
Oh, I see.
It's
I see what you mean.
just like, come on, you have to know that this is bad, like.
Mhm.
But I mean, that also helps with like some of the relatability. We all do things that we know is bad. I think what makes it extra worse is not that it's bad or even that they know that it's bad, but that because they don't know. Usually it's the decisions where they're like, yes, I am making the right decision here. And it's like, no
way this can go wrong.
Yeah.
Except for all the really obvious ways it can go wrong.
It's like, yeah, I guess just like, yeah, not having that like intelligence associated to their decisions sometimes.
I gotcha.
Or being blinded by what they think they want to not, see. It's tough sometimes reading it where you're just like, oh, what are you doing?
I gotcha.
Like, I mean, at the very least, like, you should really know time travel rules. Like, like everybody knows that. Everybody's at least seen one time travel thing. Like, I don't know.
And if you haven't, you can watch Indiana Jones 5 and see another time travel thing.
Are you getting paid?
That did sound like I was getting paid, didn't it?
Yeah, it did a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, to answer your question, no. In case that needed to be answered.
I mean, I assumed not, but it's good to clarify.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's anything else I didn't like.
So I'll say this: there's nothing I didn't like, but I do remember something else I did like. So.
Or that you did like?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, go on.
So there's a soft narrator, I guess. I don't know if that's an actual term, but basically a narrator kind of throughout the story.
Oh, yes.
And
I sort of acknowledged because it's like, yeah, Katie's still talking to herself.
Yeah, yeah. I enjoy like when the narrator is like, and Katie's thinking this, and she responds.
Yeah. Yeah, that is fun.
I do not feel that way.
Yeah, I forgot about that, actually. I'm glad you brought that up. That was kind of fun. It's very reminiscent of the Stanley Parable video game.
Oh, yeah.
Huh. I am not aware of that game.
Okay, yeah. It has kind of a interactive narrator.
I gotcha.
But, yeah. That was a fun part. I liked as well. Albeit sometimes confusing, I will say, like where I was like, wait, so is the narrator Katie, or is Katie just aware of the narrator? But then I was like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's not important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like one of the last things is like, because the reason why, what reminded me of that was you guys were talking about when Hazel cut her hair. She was being friends with the other girls at the restaurant, and the narrator is like, "Oh yeah, like she's getting along with the other girls," and Katie responds with like, "This happened like once," and then the narrator responds to her and is like, I'm just trying to end it on a happy ending. Settle down.
Should have had it where they're best friends now.
Mm.
Or dating.
Mm.
Anyway, yeah, and then what was I gonna say? I feel like I had something related to that, but I don't know. Anyway, yeah.
Sound like something you didn't like, or
No, okay, I think I know what happened was that you were saying something that you liked still, which was part of the narrator thing, and then I got confused where we were.
oh, okay. I gotcha.
Yeah, though not much that I didn't like about this book. It was, and I was kind of surprised by that. You know, I thought maybe it would have I was kind of in the right age, I feel like, for both Scott Pilgrim and this when I first read it. And then but I was kind of like, maybe that hasn't aged as well now, you know, but no, I was like, wow, I forgot how good this was.
Yeah. So my first thought was like, man, this is art that I don't like at all. So I was like, this is really going to irritate me. But I had the thought of treat this like Underwater Welder, in which, again, art I don't like, but I enjoyed the story. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, I'll think of it that way. And I ended up enjoying the story a lot. So,
okay. See, I would have thought you would like the arcs. It's a very clear, kind of concise. Everything is as it happens is very, it's easy to digest. I thought you would like that.
No, I've learned. I feel like I know what Talon likes now. It's too what's the unrealistic? It's too yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I would have gone with cartoony.
Cartoony, yes. And
cartoony's a good word because I can definitely see this being it's almost like an animation storyboard. Mm-hmm. I can see how it would transfer to a screen.
Yes,
and I like that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I guess not for everybody.
Yes. I like that as well. Yeah, and that's actually a good point. Kind of moving into the art a little bit. But
might as well.
Yeah, might as well. The Byran Lee O'Malley has a pretty good sense of creating motion, I feel like. You know, just and even sometimes I think he uses motion lines even.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
I said oh yeah, but I don't actually. That looks like it is. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, everything just kind of has good action, you know, even though it's not an action-y book. Mm-hmm. It's and also the use of you know, kind of special effects. On this one page, she taps Hazel's arm, and it you know, has a little line that says tap, you know. It's just little effects like that kind of bring things more. Oh yeah, and then also the big chase scene running away from the house spirit is fun too, and you know, she's all small and in the corner running away from it, and then you know, next page after that she's even smaller and squished into you know, a long top panel. You know, and more, you know, she's been condensed down to her base characteristics for a full body shot. You know, she's just the tiniest red sneakers. They're just oval of white, and then you know, rectangle of red with a little tinier oval of white for the shoes. Purple pants that are essentially two squiggly lines. And then yeah, just a very classic head shape for Byran Lee O'Malley, and then the red spiky hair and her cardigan flowing behind her. It's a very simplified design. I really like that. I don't know, when, you know, basically when cartoonists use the idea of like, well, this one is like a wide shot, so the details are going to be a lot fuzzier, and this one's a close-up, so the details are going to be like very clear. Yeah. Oh yeah, also Byran Lee O'Malley has always had a really good eye for fashion. And so like a lot of the clothes are really fun and nice.
You know what I do appreciate about the art is like I don't know if it's like the kind of detail, like to me looking at it, it's like these characters are like small.
Mm-hmm.
And so to have the detail of like, you see her rummaging through Hazel's clothes and you see that there's a Nirvana t-shirt there. It's like, wow, okay. Like that's a lot to put in such a small space.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of good use of like density of information in a panel. I feel like there wasn't any back matter in this. I read somewhere what the art assistant did, but I don't remember.
Yeah, because it is very vague. Art assistant.
Um,
Like a penciler or a letterer or anything like that. Colorist.
Let me look it up again because I know that. Let me see here. Okay, actually, I guess I won't be able to figure that out because I do not see where it says anymore. But I think that he either helped with backgrounds or he might have done some of the more like wide shots of like the city, I think. Also might have done the pages that are of the storybook that Hazel has.
Oh.
All of this should be
been
taken with a grain of salt because I, again, cannot remember. But yeah, that's what I think happened.
I was flipping through. I found another thing I liked about the art. The book has a lot of use of, I think the term is negative space.
Yes, it does.
I like that a lot, especially when like the negative space like forms a panel. That's cool. I like that.
It's cool. Also, I do like the how unaffixed characters can be to their panels in certain instances, especially with action, like for instance, page 211, Liz is jumping off of the dresser and her hair is flowing up past the border of the previous panel. It doesn't really matter, but it's like, yeah, why not? You know, it's like, and especially for like, you know, an interdimensional, like, you know, being kind of thing, it's like the border of like time and space that panels control, you know, it's like, why not, you know, kind of mess with that a little bit. I always appreciate non-panel rigidity. You know, as long as it's done like, you know, with effect, I guess. It's like that doesn't always need to be perfect. But yeah, the use of negative space is really good. There's also an example where she like goes to hug Max from behind and like basically like everything goes, or he is like a red silhouette basically. And she like is alone more or less. Yeah, that's right, because like reality is changing around, and so like yeah, he's a silhouette, and like the kitchen is like completely just messed up, dirty, and things are broken and cracked and everything,
Yeah.
So yeah, all that cool stuff. Yeah. Also going back to what Talon was kind of saying about the character designs and how they're like kind of small. All of his characters are just like kind of cute, It's like, yeah, look at you, just like a little guy, like a little girl, like just little people. Like all of them, even the tall ones. You're just like, you're so little. Like,
yeah. Itty bitty.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I would say personally, yeah, very fun to look at. Yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else about.
I guess yeah. I mean, there's not a lot to say about this book. I liked it a lot, but I also chose it, so I mean, maybe I'm biased.
Hey, I mean, I don't always like all the books that I choose, so it's not a guarantee.
Also, I don't know how much it matters, but apparently Katie's 29.
Yes.
And,
yeah, 20-something, early 30s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then also, so then Hazel is like 21.
Oh, is she only 21?
Yeah.
I thought she was 24. Okay, I guess I don't want them to date.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit of a bigger age gap than I thought.
But in my mind, that makes me think like, I mean, yes, it's possible that a 29-year-old and a 21-year-old could be friends, but also I'm like, would they?
What do they have in common?
Right. Yeah. Like, I don't know.
I have older friends.
Like, at 21, you had a 29-year-old friend?
Well, not at 21, but
Okay, so at 23,
24.
do you have a... What? You're 24?
Yeah.
Okay. At 24, do you have a 32-year-old friend?
Well, I have friends who... Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, that or older.
That's fair.
Yeah. I don't know. Try not to be restricted by age. I don't know. Maybe that's uncommon, though. I don't know. Anyway, was that just... Yeah, I guess... I wanted them to at least be friends because they were friends, or they are friends, by the end.
It seems like they are friends now, because they do kind of, like, shove together a bunch of what happened, like, at the very start.
Mm-hmm.
Into, like, this is now, like, the timeline, as we understand it.
That is one thing that is, like, a little bit unclear sometimes, like, throughout the book, is it's, like, because sometimes it feels like Hazel is, like, cognizant of the other timelines, but also it might have just been that, like, similar-ish things were happening in those timelines, basically.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, like she tried to recall something, and that's when it came back to her.
Yeah.
So
that was always a little bit confusing, where I'm like, well, wait, do you now have this history with, or does Katie have this history with Hazel? Or is that, like, you have to, like, redo some of those activities, like... to build that relationship.
I mean, outside, like, if those panels didn't exist, I would have just said, like, she remembers the stuff that she went through. Mm-hmm. But with those panels, it's like, it does throw into confusion whether or not she can think about something and then that timeline coming back to her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's even, like... I guess that's even another problem that I have with the ending, is that in some way when she wakes up in the hospital, you know, it's not like I wanted, like, you know, everybody, you know, in the story to, like, learn about the house spirit. Like, that just isn't really what, you know, that's not what I mean when I say this. But because it's like everything was changed back to how it was, it feels like everything in the story could have just not actually happened. Like, it could have just been like a dream, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore it's like, yeah, did anything actually really happen, you know?
Okay.
You know, between when the first revision and the last, you know, of course.
Gotcha. What would it have? I guess to me, like, would it have been different if it was all a dream? Like,
I mean, that's what I mean, I guess, is like, personally, I do think that all of that stuff happened, but at the same time, is it really different? And like, that seems like kind of a bad thing if you don't, you know, it seems like
I see.
it didn't matter, kind of.
I mean, if it matters in that it changes Katie's perspective.
Yeah.
So it's, as long as it's real to her, it doesn't matter if like the events happened.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, it goes back, the reason that I'm mentioning this is just because it's like, it changes her perspective and the perspective on her relationships, but she built certain relationships throughout this experience, so it's just like, kind of like, well, now that's not a thing, and was it ever a thing for real? Like, because, I mean, yeah,
Are
again...
you just talking about Hazel?
I guess so. I guess I'm just talking about Hazel, yeah. And, like, because, like, it's one thing to have experienced what she experienced, but if it was all a dream, then I just had a dream about my subordinate employee.
Well, there are other people in there, but I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
no, I'm playing along.
Yeah. But, so, like, you know, it's just a different kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Gotcha.
Anyway, though, yeah, I think that, it would have been nice to get a little bit more resolution in some ways, which we already mentioned, so I guess I'm just kind of beating a dead horse at this point. But yeah. Anyway, is there anything else we wanted to mention? I guess reading more Byran Lee O'Malley.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Probably.
More Snot Girl.
Snot
there
Girl
still hasn't been more that's come out since we talked about this last time.
Yes, and also Snot Girl Volume 3 really burned me. I was like, I was good for Volume 1, I was good for Volume 2, and Volume 3 was like, wow, what is this? Anyway.
That's funny. I did not have that reaction.
Really?
I can't believe that's where you drew the line.
Okay, yeah. Maybe I'll have to look back through them, but I'm pretty sure that's how I felt. But anyway, it's interesting too that, well, I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. Like, I guess Scott Pilgrim just keeps on selling. I'm like, Byran Lee O'Malley, like, you know, he's worked on those 3 things: Scott Pilgrim, Seconds, and Snot Girl.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything more by him.
Oh wow.
To my knowledge, at least. But yeah, that's all of his works.
Well, then I've read 2/3 of it. Let's go.
Yeah. You've almost finished everything he's done. But yeah, I mean, I am always interested to read more of his work. In particular, not that I didn't like the artwork in Snot Girl, but I do think that his writing works a little bit better when he's also drawing it. I think that it's
okay.
a little bit more of like a complete idea for him, you know?
Okay.
Like he really knows where he's taking all of the characters. More or less. But yeah. Okay. So yeah, more Byran Lee O'Malley, more Byran Lee O'Malley. And you said more Byran Lee O'Malley, Jake?
There are at least two things that aren't Snot Girl, Seconds, or Scott Pilgrim.
Oh, what are those?
Something called Hopeless Savages.
Interesting.
As well as, which is either 2 volumes or like they redid one of them, because one of them was 2003 and one was 2010.
Okay.
And then something called Lost at Sea.
Gotcha.
Okay. I guess
Also from 2003. Busy year, I guess.
2003. Yeah, okay. So I guess those were pre-Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, that is right before Scott Pilgrim. In 2004.
Gotcha. Yeah. I guess I'll have to check those out. I don't know why I feel like, you know, once, because I was hungry for more, basically, when I finished Scott Pilgrim. That's why I checked out Seconds, like, pretty much immediately. I guess I just glanced past those other two.
There's also Scooter Girl and Ground Zero.
Oh. Are those more contemporary, or are those also older?
No, those are also older.
Okay.
Oh, wait. I guess Ground Zero is Hopeless Savages. Never mind.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But it's still Scooter Girl.
Scooter Girl. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. There's more to Byran Lee O'Malley than I thought. But also all of those were still pre Scott Pilgrim. So yeah, still not a lot of new stuff though.
No.
Just new to me.
Yeah.
Snot Girl is supposedly coming out with more issues. We just haven't seen it yet.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely eventually. I'm like, I don't know. It's like looking at the output of like Saga, you know, it's like
allegedly more is coming out.
Yeah, but see that one, it's like they regularly released like a lot and then took a long hiatus. I'm like, that's fair. This is like, all right, we released like 6 issues. All right, big hiatus. All right, another one, big hiatus. Another one, biggest hiatus.
Yeah. I just want to take a second and say I think Snot Girl is probably one of the oldest comics that we have reviewed that is like kept coming up. Cuz like I think we first read the first volume back in 2018.
Yes, that was when we were still figuring out the general structure of the show as it has become today. So it was a little bit different, and that's why I felt like it required re-reviewed. Yes. Yeah,
I agree.
Definitely.
Well, no, it's that or it's Gotham High. It's probably the one we come back to the most.
Well, I mean, we reference it, but we don't come back to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Gotham High is more of like an inside joke.
Yes.
Snot Girl is actually part of our critical analysis. Okay. I think that is all that we have. I'm Cody.
I'm Talon.
And I'm Jacob.
And this has been The Comic Panel. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to this channel as it helps us out on the YouTube algorithms and getting us seen by more and more people. You can also reach out to us with any thoughts you have on the things we talk about on Twitter at TheComicPanel1 and on Instagram and Facebook at The Comic Panel. Also, if you want to leave a comment, please do. Let us continue the conversation.